on, fish. Oh, there we go. Got it. There it is. Not a big fish, but in a lot of our events, that'd be a scoreable bass. But you know, what I'm doing here is I'm throwing a little teeny tiny buzzbait. You know, I grew up fishing this stuff, all the little light finesse stuff, little crankbaits, spinnerbaits, all that. So the technology that we've got has changed, and it's made this type of fishing a lot easier. So, you know, being early fall, it's, you know, we're early in the morning still. It's low light. So we're up here around these water willows, and you know, it's that time of year where topwater shines. So once we get up around these docks, that's when I'm gonna pick up the little crankbaits and, you know, do what I really love doing. You know, the shad are very prevalent, but a lot of your shad this time of year are teeny tiny. These baits are the best way to match the hatch. You know, fishing smaller finesse type baits. So there it is, match the hatch and catch some bass. Now that's not a real big bass, but you know, it's not a big bass, but it's getting a bite. And a lot of times in the fall like this, that's the whole key, is just getting bites and weeding through the numbers. And while this might be a little bait, don't let the size deceive you. You know, if it's a day where, you know, you're needing that 5th fish or something in a day, you know, that's where these little finesse baits will really shine. You know, to be able to do a little roll cast like I'm doing here with this little bait, you just couldn't do that before these new reels. If you did, it had to be with a spinning rod. And you know, there's nothing, spinning rods are okay, but you just have so much more control. Your gear ratios seem to be a little bit faster for you know, your crankbaits and spinnerbaits and stuff. I'm fishing this little square bill around these docks, and I know just, you know, this bait will dive 2 to 4 foot depending on how I hold my rod and the size line I'm throwing. But you know, I'm basically just trying to get this thing down to the bottom as fast as possible, just because a lot of these fish are sitting on the backside of these docks, and they'll ambush the prey that are swimming along these seawalls. Fish are scattered, and you know, sometimes, you know, people's style of fishing is to slow down, you know, maybe throw a shaky head or Carolina rig or something and work it slow and focus on the few fish that might be on a particular area. The other way of doing it is to cover a lot of water, and that's what I love about these little finesse baits I'm using. These little baits like this, back in the day, I couldn't fish these things around these docks like this because they were so hard to be accurate with and be precise. But now with the setups that we're able to fish with, I'm able to fish this bait, or these small baits, in ways that I've never been able to fish them before. The other thing that I love about the finesse stuff like this is pressured fish. Come you know, fall like this, the fish have had a tremendous amount of fishing pressure, and they've seen thousands of 3/8 to 3/4 ounce baits, you know, your bigger baits, where when something that's half the size shows up, they're a little more apt to eat it. Look at that, choked it. I mean, he wanted that thing. I mean, it looked just like the little shad in here. He ate it good. There we go. There it is, nice little 1.5 pounds or 1 3/4 pounds. There we go. Another one following. There it is. Not a giant, but still a nice little bass. But you know, we moved out here a little bit deeper water. We're out here in like 8 and 10 foot of water, so put on a little bit deeper diver. This bait gets in that 4 to 6 foot range, and keeps that bait closer to the bottom and getting some bites. Saw him come out of there. It's that time of year where the fish are scattered, so just I think using the right bait to stay in contact with the bottom is the key. So the little bit deeper diver, that's the key. The square bill up in the shallower stuff, the deeper diver in this deeper stuff. With this little setup here, I'm able to throw these really light baits. Rod's critical too. I've got this on a 7-foot crankbait rod. It's got a really light tip on it. But I'm either doing just little short overhand casts, or I'm able to do little roll casts as well. But as soon as that bait hits the water, I'm putting my rod tip right at the water to get the maximum depth out of that bait. Now, if I wanted to fish the bait shallower, maybe along this edge of this dock, I can hold my rod tip high and keep that bait just right under the surface. You know, these fish aren't giants, but we've definitely, on what would typically be a tough fall morning, we've had a tremendous amount of bites, so we kind of know where the fish are positioned, where they're at, where they're not. It even would tell me now I could go back through here with more of, let's say, a traditional big fish bait and know these are the places where I should be able to get bit versus where there isn't fish to catch. You know, where the dead water is. I mean, it looks like, you know, all we've done is caught fish, but there's definitely been some dead water too. Or if I was in a tournament situation, I'd have a limit of fish in the boat. Now I can pick up that big bait for a potential kicker fish as well and not have to sweat it at the end of the day of hoping I got 5 fish in the live well. There it is. Spinnerbait. But here's a perfect example of why you always throw a trailer hook. A trailer hook caught that fish, and without that trailer hook, I wouldn't have caught him. But rule for me, whenever I fish a spinnerbait or buzzbait in a tournament situation, I always have a trailer hook on it. The fish are shallow. I mean, almost all the bites we're getting are that first 10 feet from the shore, so it's important to get that bait right on the bank. So that's why I was kind of thinking the spinnerbait might be a better approach than the crankbait, just because I can keep it in that strike zone a little bit longer. Get up here. A little bit better fish, but I mean, he smoked that spinnerbait. I mean, we're seeing the shad in this pocket, and that thing hit the water, made about 3 turns of the handle, and he smoked it. So nice little fish. See you, buddy. For fall, early fall, when the fishing's tough, the water's still warm, it's a nice bass. I mean, it's a keeper bass, and when it's tough, every bite counts, you know, and that right there is critical. So whether you're out having fun or fishing a tournament, you know, that's the type of fish that can make a day. So let me show you some of the things that we've been fishing today. You know, we started out with the buzzbait. This is a little 1/8 ounce buzzbait. I mean, a buzzbait that you almost have to fish on the spinning rod, or used to, but little tiny buzzbait, but it, you know, puts off a real subtle action. But the shad are small right now, so that matching the hatch is the deal. You know, little black buzzbait here. But the important part is this new reel. This is the Cast King MG12. This thing's a phenomenal reel. This is when I started fishing this reel. It really opened my eyes to really reminding myself how much fun it is to fish these smaller baits, because with this setup, I can now cast them so much easier. I mean, I can throw this little tiny buzzbait on this setup as far as I can throw a 1/2 ounce buzzbait on my bigger setup. So thoroughly impressed with that. The same thing with the little crankbaits, and how far I can cast them as well. So the crankbaits, here we are. This is a little 1/8 ounce or 3/16 ounce. This is a Strike King 1.0 crankbait. Our water's pretty clear here, so it's kind of a little translucent color here. I always take the factory hooks off and I replace them with these are Trocar. These are their EWG treble hooks. These are a number 6 in size. What I've got this on here is I've got this on 12-pound gamma fluorocarbon rod. This is a Cast King Speed Demon Pro. This is a 7-foot crankbait rod. So being a crankbait rod, it's got a soft tip to it, and you know, I can throw it a mile. But here's the other big key on this one as well, is this new reel, the Cast King MG12. This thing's made for these finesse baits and making long casts. So 7:5 to 1 gear ratio. So the gear ratio is a good medium retrieve. So it's great for these square bills, for a spinnerbait, for a buzzbait, just a good all-around versatile speed. So on the square bill, we got to some deeper docks, some deeper stretches, and that's where I tied on the Strike King Series 3 here. This bait dives, you know, where the square bill dives maybe 1 to 4 feet, this dives probably 6 to 8 feet. And here's the setup we threw for the spinnerbait. This is a little 1/4 ounce Strike King burner spinnerbait, but you can see, I mean, I don't even know the size of these blades, teeny tiny. Let's just put it that way. It's a 1/4 ounce in size. Still have my trailer hook on there. You always got to put a trailer hook on there. I've got the Cast King Speed Demon Pro. This is the 7.3 bladed jig rod. You know, that soft tip casts these spinnerbaits really, really well. But back again, here we are to the reel, the Cast King MG12, the reel that's made for fishing these little micro baits like this. So a great little setup, and fishing this little spinnerbait and the fish we caught on it was a good reminder of these little baits still catch great fish. Yeah, without a doubt, there's a better one. That's what we're looking for, I think. Not a bad one. But you know, here we've been covering a ton of water. We've been fishing a lot of what I would consider more main lake stuff. And we get into this cove where the water is a degree or two cooler, and caught some better quality fish. Back in the day, I couldn't fish these things around these docks like this because they were so hard to be accurate with and be precise. But now with the setups that we're able to fish with, I'm able to fish this bait, or these small baits, in ways that I've never been able to fish them before.